come up for a few words.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this Maritime Forum. My good friend, Commodore Chuck Agustin. Well, very quickly, my concern would be the emerging alliances as a result of well, the change in our government, and also the change in the U.S. government in about 12 hours from now. Well, first, in the recent years, we have noted that countries like Japan, the Philippines, Vietnam, India, even Indonesia to a certain extent, have borne the brunt of China's very aggressive territorial initiatives since 2012. And in the case of the Philippines, it was even much earlier with the grabbing of Mischief Reef in 1994 and in 1995. And it is my thinking that we need to review now the announced foreign policy of the present administration, which is basically a pivot towards China, away from the United States, in view of emerging developments. Now we are seeing an emerging coalition forming even before Trump's victory, incoming President Trump's victory, to push back against China's aggressiveness. And we're talking of countries like Japan, India, Australia, Vietnam, and of late, Indonesia, because of the Natuna Sea situation. Singapore is very much in the picture also, hosting the littoral combat ships of the U.S. Navy to guard the Malacca Straits. Now, what is happening now is that if we are looking at the economy, and this is a vital issue as far as coalitions are concerned, a lot of people are saying that soon China is going to overtake the United States, but the mathematics are like this. The GDP of the United States is $18 trillion. The latest GDP of China is $11 trillion, so that's still a 70% difference if you look at it from the base of 11 trillion. And if you do the math, even if China would grow at 6.5% in the next so many years, and the US growing at only 3.5%, it would take China about 8 years to reach $18 trillion. And by that time, the US would be at about more than $22 trillion. So we don't think there will be equality or parity in the next 10 years or even beyond. Especially, I don't think the 6.5% growth rate cannot be sustained by China. If we look at the economic powers of the world, number one would be the US, as I mentioned, at 18 trillion. China is number two at 11 trillion. Japan is number three at 4.7 trillion. Germany, 3.4 trillion. United Kingdom, 2.6 trillion. France, 2.4. India, 2.2. Italy, 1.8. Brazil, 1.7. Canada, 1.5. And South Korea at 1.4. And then if we lump up EU is at $17 trillion total. And if you remember all the countries that I mentioned, China appears all alone in that cluster. Practically all of the countries I mentioned in the top 11 economies are considered geopolitical allies of the United States. So that's one very important factor to consider as far as economic coalition or alliances are concerned. Now, with respect to military power, the ability to project military power within the Indo-Pacific area, Indian Ocean, South China Sea, Western Pacific, all the way to the entire Pacific, I have here a list of the top economic military powers based on Business Insider Military Defense. Number 1 is the US. Number 2 is Russia. Number 3 is China. Number 4 is Japan. Number 5 is India. Number 6 is South Korea. Number 7, UK. I consider UK because UK can project into the Indo-Pacific area. In fact, UK is sending a squadron of fighters in Japan. Number 8 is Pakistan. Number 9 is Taiwan. Number 10 is Australia. Number 11 is Thailand. Number 12 is Indonesia. And number 13 is Canada. And if you recall the countries that I mentioned, only one country can be considered a real ally of China. All the rest are allied with the United States. So we're talking of the top 11 powers in that alliance aligned with the US. And note again that, I already mentioned that, UK is going to deploy a squadron of fighter jets in Japan. Japan's Abe conducted a swing of 4 critical countries, the Philippines, Australia, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And apparently Japan is trying to forge some kind of an alliance under its initiative or inspiration, and committed a lot of both economic and military support to the countries that I mentioned. India and Vietnam have military ties that have strengthened of late. India has announced its willingness to supply Vietnam with the potent BrahMos missiles and are training Vietnam in the use of the Sukhoi 27 and Sukhoi 30, which Vietnam has, and also the operation of the 6 Kilo class submarines acquired by Vietnam from Russia. Indonesia, while trying to be neutral, has actually asked the assistance of the United States in upgrading the naval base fronting the Natuna Sea in the face of China's aggressiveness also in that area. So, and then in the case of Russia, I do not believe that Russia is really committed to an alliance with China. If you look at the history of China and Russia, they have a love-hate relationship. They are competitors in the Eurasian landmass. And of late, Russia appears to be tilting towards the United States with the friendship being shown by Trump to Putin. So that is going to also alter to a lot of extent the dynamics of geopolitics with respect to the relationship between the US and Russia. That's with respect to Russia. And with the above observations, it's very important for the Philippines to recalibrate and rebalance our foreign policy because of the Trump factor. And we'll be observing the coming, we have to consider to adjust to the realities of the emerging economic and strategic alliances under a Trump presidency. And that will be the demand of real politics. Otherwise, the Philippines would face, as I mentioned already, the prospect of being isolated in the Indo-Pacific area when it comes to economic as well as geosecurity consideration. And add to that, the tide of public opinion in the Philippines. I'm not talking from my point of view. I think we are all aware of the very recent Pulse Asia survey that reiterated the finding that was generated about a year ago, that of the countries, the major countries of the world, the US still stands as among the highest as far as the capability of the Philippines to trust. The trust rating of the US is at 76%, the highest. Japan is second at 70%. On the other hand, the distrust rating for China among the Filipino public is quite low at 61%, which is almost equal to how it was about a year ago. So I think to continue to pivot towards China goes against the grain of both geopolitical currents and domestic public opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Roilo Golez, for